Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. How beautiful is that music? I love the opening of this game. I love the music in this game. It's a game that just makes me happy and makes me smile. It's not a perfect game, it's a flawed game, but it's a game that's got character and charm, and I can't help but love it. This is of course Gravity Daze walkthrough. This is episode 19, it's called Falling to Pieces. We're going back to Old Town, and we're going to be doing a very weird mission where we have to chase our cat. And he's going to be all fragmented and weird, and I'm looking for the way into the sewers, and I have to go beneath the city and go up here. So it took a little doing, but we got there in the end, guys. There's about 130 people watching this walkthrough, and I believe most of them are watching to listen to me speak, because this is not a game you need too much help with, but at the same time, I have to put it on my channel because I really, really do like it. As quirky and as goofy as it has some of the most fun movement I've played in a while, and I go on about movement a lot in these videos because this game it has a sense of fun to how you move. And a lot of games don't. A lot of games infuriate me with being slow, with taking pride in taking control away from the player, in making the player feel weighted, feel like all their actions have this kind of inertia to them, and I have no interest in that. Every so often, I just like to feel like when I move the analog, the guy does exactly what I want him to do. And so few games nail this feeling as well as certain games. And this game, for one, I think the movement on the ground is a little slippery. I don't think they've done a perfect job with that. But when you're in the air and you're dashing around and you're moving gravity and you're shifting directions, outside of the delays on the controls so you can't do it instantly, maybe it's a balancing conceit, I'm not too sure, maybe it's hardware conceit. When you're in the air and you're flying around, it feels really, really good. It feels about as good as you can expect it to, considering how disorientating it could feel. But it doesn't. It always feels really, really good. And all we're going to be doing in this mission is finding our glowing cat, because as the title suggests, we're in the process of falling to pieces, and so is the town. We're going to be escalating towards a conclusion that you probably won't see coming, although it is a little bit predictable in certain ways, but in other ways it's just baffling, like all these hallucinations, all these crazy creators who are using their powers on this rather mysterious city that we apparently are a denizen of. But mechanically, there's not too much to talk about here because we've talked all you really need to know. There's going to be a couple of fights against big creatures, and my recommendation is to do the gravity moves, to do the gravity kick, and then use your special abilities when they recharge. I could have done with a towel in this heat to wipe my face because I am dripping and my eyes are stinging from the sweat, which just gives you an idea of how miserable the heat is in my room. My computer's fan is kicking up too, which is telling me that it's getting quite hot, so probably going to have to take a break after these just to cool the room down a little bit. It's one of the sacrifices that must be made to make sure that the quality is as high as I can make it, because if I opened my window, all you would hear would be vehicles and savages outside shouting and dismembering each other as they try to find their sanity, and nobody wants that on the commentaries because it's too much dissonance. You know, especially if you're coming here for help, you don't care about what the savages are doing outside when they're making a wicker man of some effigy to burn it in hopes of the rain coming back. You don't care about that, as I do some weird jumps to try and kick this guy's glowing back. Yeah, the jump combos are something that the game definitely needs to elaborate on in the sequel, because it's one of the weaker aspects of the game by far. But you might be wondering what's coming to the channel in the next coming weeks. Look at this, I keep hitting the lamppost. It wouldn't let me get to the monster because of the collision on the lamppost. Silly things that happen when you record, and they happen all the time. Little inconsistencies, little weird things, little curious moments of just bizarre bullshit. Love it. It's what makes recording so much fun, because something always goes wrong in a goofy way, and oftentimes it can be quite funny. Other times it can be infuriating, but you never quite know what you're going to get. The old Forrest Gump idiom. But the channel is going to be having all kinds of different things on it coming up. The next big project you'll probably see will be Mirror's Edge, and it's been getting kinda slated in the reviews, so I'm curious to see whether or not I'm going to enjoy the feel of that game. Because I think if I enjoy the feel of it, I'm going to try to get some really good paths through the levels that use shortcuts and use all the wall running and all the advanced techniques, and maybe I can, you know, make that game look really fun to watch and you know, make you want to play it and make you want to become a better player of it. Maybe I'll suck massive shit and be terrible and hate it, and all I'll do is bitch during my walkthrough. I'm not too sure, but at the moment, I'm kind of optimistic. Because the reviews have been 6s and 7s, which is, you know, usually a pretty good game by today's standards. We're just so spoiled and we expect 9s and 10s. Yeah, games like Witcher get a 10, even though the combat and the movement in that game is so infuriating, and then the fact that that game barely worked at launch because it was so buggy and the load times are nearly 2 minutes long. Yeah, it gets a fucking 10. And then Quantum Break gets an 8. How the hell does Quantum Break get an 8? I'm a massive Remedy fanboy. I love that dev team, but Quantum Break is a weak game at the best of times. It's painfully average. It's a game that could have been so much better than it is, and I wish it was. It's not an 8, dude. An 8 is a game that is great, that is, you know, is almost flawless in a lot of areas, but it doesn't quite hit those peaks of innovation and game design. An 8 is fucking a big deal. You know, 8 is a big deal. 8 is like the best review I could give a game, because I don't believe in all these 9s and 10s. Not on my scale, anyway. I'm having trouble here getting to this creature. It keeps hitting me with its Dan Maku bullshit. But we got it in the end, straight in the heart of its bulbous glowing membrane, and it's dead. So divide and conquer. If you start taking damage, feel free to pick up life, feel free to pick up extra energy. Be as mobile as you can so they can't hit you with the homing bullets, and dive kick their tits off. It's the best way to win, guys. And if you're more upgraded than I am by collecting things and doing side missions, you'll have no issue here. None whatsoever. And then once you've killed them, it'll enable you to pick up the next creature, so feel free to do that. I suppose the thing I'm trying to say is, it's easy to be swayed by reviews, and a lot of people are, unfortunately. Sometimes a reviewed game gets a terrible review, and it stops you from wanting to play it. And then when you do play it, you wish you'd have played it earlier because you didn't realise just how interesting it was to you. You know, if I went by reviews, I would have never played God Hand, because God Hand got a terrible review. Like, a lot of the games I hold really dear to my heart, I would have never played if it were for reviews. So, I just really want to put forward this notion that you can't judge things based off of other people's tastes. It's very easy to do so. I will tell you that I hate Resident Evil 6. You know, I will tell you that I really dislike Dynasty Warriors games, and that they're all the same and they're uninspired mashing crap, and people should at least, you know, challenge themselves with actually playing a game that doesn't involve pressing one button for 20 hours. Of course, these are jokes, and these are meant to, you know, trigger those people, because I'm just poking a bit of fun of it, and there is more depth to those games. But I can say that because, A, I find it funny, and some of it I believe, but it doesn't mean that that's what it means to you, you know? There are a lot of games that I don't like, that plenty of people adore, and if you were to believe me, they would have never played them, and they would never have that experience that they really like. Like today on my stream, a lot of people have been talking about Final Fantasy XII. I was depressed for an entire year after playing that game, because I was so heartbroken about it, because I hated every moment of it. I still put about 150 hours into the game, did everything except for Yzmat, or whatever he's called, that final hunt, got all of the summons, you know, killed all the secret bosses, got all of the weapons except for the Zodiac Spear, you know, all that kind of bullshit. But I still hated the game, because the part of it that's a Final Fantasy, it's not a Final Fantasy to me. The characters are all one-dimensional, none of them have any kind of character development, the story is complete and utter trash, and the gameplay is essentially an MMO that you can set your characters to do everything for you so you don't physically have to play. I find it profoundly boring and annoying, but people love it. And I can understand why they love it, because if you get your team all macroed correctly, you can be unkillable, you can be insanely strong. And the gameplay-wise, there's a lot of depth, there's a lot of farming, there's a lot of hunts, there's a lot of gameplay in a period where games just don't offer that kind of gameplay anymore. And compared to RPGs that are getting released now, Final Fantasy XII is probably amazing in contrast, because we seem to have forgotten how to make RPGs great for some reason. But a bunch of people in my chat absolutely adore 12. I don't. Me not liking it doesn't affect their enjoyment of it, and it shouldn't affect yours, you know? Like this game, you might hate this game. I think this game is really fun in a simple, almost childlike way, and I have a lot of enjoyment when I play it. I'm never going to play it again, but I really liked my time with it, you know? And if we were to simply listen to reviews, we might have never gone near it, so Mirror's Edge could be amazing. It could be my favourite game ever. Or it could be a big steal of piping hot dog shit. We don't know. we're just going to have to find out together, I guess. And I'm hoping to get it tomorrow, but I bet I won't, because I'm very unfortunate. Also, if you're wondering what's happening here, I'm having difficulty hitting this dude because he does a spinning attack and I don't want to take too much damage off him. So I'm just wasting time until I get my ability back so I can kill the orb that's dangling like a solitary testicle. That's what we're doing. Nothing too fancy, pretty standard stuff. And that's what you do in this game, but my god is it fun. And reviews are interesting. I got a tweet last night from a person by the name of Furry, and she just doesn't understand the notion of numbered review scores, and I'm with her in a lot of ways, because I think Mirror's Edge gets like a 6 or something at IGN, and Quantum Break gets an 8. And I like Quantum Break, I defend Quantum Break, but it's still a pretty shitty game. And it got a higher score than Mirror's Edge, which I can tell you right now, you know the speedrunners and the really skillful Mirror's Edge players who do nothing but time trial and do those frame-perfect jumps to do all those crazy shortcuts? I reckon they're going to make Mirror's Edge look amazing, because they're the people that game was designed for, and unfortunately, it has this super casual campaign that's uninspired and bullshit, but that doesn't mean people aren't going to make their own time travel. I don't know what I'm saying. It doesn't mean people aren't going to make their own time trials and have a really competitive community of people playing that level at a really high, at a really high level, because that's just what that game will breed. If it's responsive and if it's got those really cool moves like the first game had, I see no reason why that game is not going to have a really long life for the people who really love the movement, who really love to challenge themselves. And how can you call that a 6? Just because the characters are crappy and the story is unimaginative and dull. Every game story is unimaginative and dull. Every characters are pretty crappy when you look at them from an archetypal perspective. You know? There are very few games that you can honestly say have got great storylines. Some of them are only great because there's a nostalgia factor or some kind of sentimental value to you. You know? Somebody might play Mirror's Edge and think the story's great because they love, you know, hipster haircuts and crap tattoos. I have no idea. I've not played the game. I'm not going to judge it until I have. But saying something is dull and unimaginative when it comes to story in games is every fucking story. Look how convoluted Resident Evil is. Look how stupid and simple the premise was to begin with. There's a nasty virus that some scientist just shit out of his purse, and everybody turned into zombies, so we send in a crack team of cops to stop a virus outbreak instead of just nuking the entire place. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? And then all the inevitable betrayals, and then everything escalates, and it's really his sister and his brother's brother, and it's not the T virus, it's the G virus and the D virus and the... Ridiculous. Every storyline's ridiculous when you analyse it, you know? It's just how it works, as I fall down through the world, and it resets me. Always fun to see. But to condemn a game so sternly for something that... Like, there'll be people who play Mirror's Edge and never ever watch the cutscenes. They just skip them, because they have no interest. Some people just want to play gameplay. But to have such a strong effect on the review when it comes to story seems kind of interesting, doesn't it? Because in converse to this, imagine if you reviewed Firewatch without talking about the story. Because that game is 99% story and 1%, you know, that sense of underwhelming feeling knowing that it's only 2.5 hours long. The entire merit of that game is how emotionally connected you are to the story. And if you can't do that, what do you do? Yet we talk about Mirror's Edge, and then we think, you know, condemning the game for its story seems like a really silly practice. So it's just that weird thing. Reviews are bizarre to begin with, you know, fundamentally. And nobody will agree, because everybody likes different things. So I suppose the moral of the story is decide for yourself after you've played it, I guess. Thank you for watching. You take care now.